So, as most of you might remember, in Hungary we have one national operational program. Since we don't have constitutional NUTS 2 regions, we have 19 NUTS 3 areas, counties, and 20 bigger cities with so-called county rights. These are territorial units with elected assemblies, of course. And actually, the operational program, which is called Territorial and Settlement Development Program, is operated with calls, basically with central calls, electronic application management systems, and at the level of goals in the operational program, it was formulated as preparing and strengthening the conditions for sustainable transport in general, with the goal of reducing CO2 emission and climate change mitigation, to creating livable urban environments and increasing the bicycle and public transport in general. I will also speak about the indicators that were dedicated to this. I think it is something that we can learn from. And what is important that although there were not big strategic planning processes behind these calls, there was an extensive consultation process before launching the call about the conditions, the annexes, the guidance notes that were annexed to these calls, and experiences from previous programming periods were included. The main core of the call is, of course, the activities that can be financed. And in that respect, of course, there were the general activities, how they were formulated. They were formulated in a broad and flexible way, not excluding any potential cycling-related investment or transport safety, investment, procurement of goods or tools. Traffic calming, public transport related investments could be also be financed from this call. In terms of the activities, I think an innovative element has been in these calls that they were obligatory or compulsory accompanying activities, which all the applicants had to do in a city. These were, as listed here, awareness raising campaigns, change the behavior of the population towards a more frequent use of bicycles. The modal share in Hungary is extremely high. The bicycle modal share is above 30% in most of the regions of Hungary, which has to do with traditions and in poorer areas, the lack of cars and poor public transport in some areas. But still, we also have car cities, and especially in the inner cities, and there were a lot of investments done in these cities, so this was a quite good thing that this was a compulsory activity in this call. All those projects that have planned to introduce a bike sharing system, which was also eligible from this call, had to do a feasibility study. All the projects had to do a road safety audit, and all projects had to use the National Technical Engineering Design Manual for Bicycle Traffic, which is an official part of the official, it's a state regulation, and it's prescribed for all planning processes, and all when authorities are giving permits for investments, they are checking all investments towards these regulations. And these compulsory accompanying activities were not just stipulated in the call, but for all of them, there were guidances annexed. How to do them, what are the good solutions in awareness raising, where you can look up for good solutions. For the visibility study, what is the outline, what are the main factors it has to consider. So this was, I think, a package, a core package, which was obligatory for all the projects in a city, and which already guaranteed a quite high level of quality and some kind of strategic thinking behind the projects. In addition, not financed by the EU fund, but there was, these were activities that had to be done. The local consultation with stakeholders and the professional committee, which I will speak about later on, and which is one of our other good practices with a longer description. But the main thing is that all the projects during implementation had to prepare as a first project milestone a cycling traffic network plan, including all their planned investments and dedicating a cycling-friendly area zone within the city where certain conditions had to be met. Actually, this plan will be the main topic of my current presentation. But here it is important as a compulsory activity that it was prescribed to consult local stakeholders, inhabitant groups, NGOs, cycling related sport clubs or NGOs within the city about this network plan. There had to be a meeting with minutes annexed to your network plan that you consulted these organizations in a bottom-up approach. Then, on the other hand, there was a professional committee organized by the managing authority that has reviewed all the more than 400 local cycling traffic network plans prepared by the applicant cities. And the same bodies, Line Ministry for Transport, Managing Authority, Cycling NGO from the national level, and some experts from the National Planning, Transport Planning Institute, for example, who were very experienced in road safety audits, have participated on this meeting, and they had introduced really a common standard for the level of detail, professional content, and minimum standards of indicators, for example, to be achieved during the projects within this committee. So there was a real coordination, or this was, like in a lot of cases, a project development session in the professional committee, where they formulated conditions, they gave back the network plan for revision. This network plan could be financed from the project budget, like all the planning and soft activities that were required to fulfill the core conditions. So the eligibility, cost eligibility structure was rather flexible in that respect. All the things that I'm telling now could be financed from the project budget. The course had really an extensive list of annexed guidance documents, like the template for the network plan. I will speak about this more in detail soon. A methodology how to design a bike sharing system if the city intended to do this. A template for the road safety audit and technical standards for it. And for the actual physical planning of the cycling and other infrastructure planning elements and infrastructure development elements like road safety and traffic calming, they annexed guidances. Like there was a guidance on how to plan the Copenhagen-style bicycle lanes. You see some pictures. These are Hungarian text, but this is how actually 2 pages of this guidance look like. So it is illustrated with actual pictures, how to do it, how not to do it, type of pictures. There was a guidance, a list of recommended plants, for example, in the different areas of Hungary. What are the endogenous plants that survive next to a bicycle lane, and also where the cyclists can survive and the maintenance is not very costly because of the regular maintenance of the plants. There was a planning guide of on equal access to public services. It's mainly a guide for people use how you can design infrastructure for people with disabilities, and it had to be also applied during this infrastructure planning. And there was also a guidance on network maintenance. What are the most important factors for authorities that maintain road networks? Of course, all the cities and settlements that were receiving funding, these were more than 400 in these schemes, they had to plan already their infrastructure, having in mind the maintenance costs and how to do it and how to not do it. It was an important question all along the previous course, and the managing authority just prepared a guidance note on that as well. And in the following part of my presentation, I will speak about the cycling traffic network plan. It was really the core of a core tool for these projects. It has been tested in a high number. There are really big advantages, and there are also things that have to be improved in this methodology, and I will try to sum up these when I will present during the presentation of the content of it. So here you see the cycling traffic network plan of Szombathely city. That's the city where we are located actually, and we were working on this cycling network plan. You can already see that this Lila area, which is the cycling friendly zone of Szombathely city, is not very coherent. So actually the project had to be prepared, and all the investments included in the project had to be dedicated and decided by the city assembly when submitting the project. And then cycling network plan was to be prepared during the project as a first milestone. So we had to work with a city decision. Of course, this could have been changed, but the city assembly didn't want to change it. So we had to work with a rather dispersed investment list. As you see, in the four corners of this plan, some sections are rather in a distance. On the other hand, the city is a rather decentralized city. It has more sub-centers. So it may actually at the end, this network plan made sense in terms of transport planning. Okay. So this plan, as a first chapter, had an analysis on the current situation. So before the investments, we had to list, present, and consider the relevance of all existing city development plans, spatial plan, transport plan, existing cycling strategies from within the city and its surroundings. We did this, of course. In Hungary, there is a national system for road network, and the cycling network is part of this classified road system. And we have one road actually that is about national importance. It is called, that we had to consider as an obligatory element in the plan, although it was not affected by any investments. But the city had to take some measures to improve also this. We also had to do the general analysis of population, traffic network volumes, define the bicycle-friendly network area, which you can see here. It had to cover all the investments, and in addition, in the call, it was prescribed that once you design and define this area as a city, you have to install a general, quite high level of cycling friendliness that was defined in detail within the whole area, which means that bicycle storage, resting places, bicycle safety in high traffic crossings has to reach a general standard, high standard within the whole of this area, either financed by the project or financed by the city resources within the project lifetime, or in the plus 5 years of project maintenance. So the network plan actually has to list all the minor investments, like install bicycle storage at the marketplace, or improve when the cyclists switch from a cycling road to the main road, and the change levels of surface, for example. All these elements have to be listed and improved to a certain level. In this plan, this bicycle-friendly action area had to be evaluated, and one of the main factors of designating the area and to evaluate the area were the traffic attracting facilities. So there had to be a complete assessment of schools, primary schools, kindergarten, university, sport facilities, any facilities with a public function in culture, religion, health care, post, commerce, and public transport had to be listed. Actually, the main traffic attracting facilities had to be covered by this cycling friendly area. And also we had to evaluate the connection between these traffic attracting facilities and the main areas of housing. In this map, you see the main housing areas with gray lines highlighted. So here, when you see these areas, these are the main blockhouse areas of the city, and we had to evaluate and show within the plan how cycling is happening and which are the most frequent cycling lanes within this area. Going forward, I already started how we evaluated the situation of cycling. The rideability, the existing facilities had to be documented. So we had to prepare, and all the cities had to prepare a complete description and photo documentation of all the main lines within this within this network area, between the housing and traffic attracting facilities, including storage places, and with exact numbers. So we have counted actually all the storage places within the city, and so did the other cities. The other main point of evaluation was here. This is map about the traffic flow. Here you see all the cycling lanes that were mostly frequented by cyclists. The numbers on the right side represent the daily cyclist flow. Here you can see also the traffic attracting facilities. We don't have access to mobile phone trajectories, you know, as some countries have this, like in Austria. It's possible to get mobile phone movements in a statistical way to look for trajectories of cyclists, for example, based on their speed. You can filter out the cyclists. But in Hungary, we use traffic counting. So there is a regular traffic counting that the bigger cities do, and the cyclists are also counted. But we had some sections where we had to make some own counting. There is a methodology for that, how to do it. It's not completely comparable, I think, how different cities do it. But within a city, they use the same methodology during all the years, so it's comparable in time within the city. And the third aspect, which was used during this network planning, is a problem map. It's like we heard in the case of that Sina presented from Euregio Rhein-Waalfok-Lewe, that the number of accidents and the type of accidents is really a factor. From the police, you can obtain in Hungary data about this. Here you see the accidents. I don't know how far you can see the colors, but the blue ones are where there was only material damage. Then yellow ones these are the most frequent ones. The light has damages or injuries. Red, this is quite a lot. This is the severe injuries. And there is death is black. There was one case of death, unfortunately, and this was prepared for the last 5 years. So all these data had to be investigated and evaluated for the last 5 years before the preparation of the network plan. Yes, this is a more recent improvement. The Hungarian police has reached a very high level of online presence, so you can get actually an up-to-date map from these accidents, traffic accidents, and you can filter the different kinds of accidents quite easily from the Hungarian police web page. This is for the first part of the network plan, and then we had to assess actually the development potentials. This part of the plan was about justifying the planned investments, present alternatives, and justify the choice between alternatives. So it's like a feasibility study, and we had to start with a general chapter about compliance with relevant city plans for the current programming period, and the general constraints for developing cycling Here we went into details about the cycling habits in the city, and also about some infrastructural constraints like the location of the train station, the bus station, and the main roads, which are very frequent by car traffic. There are some car-free zones. We presented it here. And here we also considered future developments, like a planned new industrial zone at the northern outskirts of the city, which is expected to become a huge traffic attracting facility, of course. And we had to consider this as it was already existing in this network plan, which is of course about the future. And then we had so in a plan like this, you have several infrastructure elements that you bundle together, and this bicycle friendly area is behind these investments and covering the whole area. And in the third chapter, they have to be presented. They can be upgrades of existing facilities. They can be completely new bicycle lanes. They can be bicycle parking places, combined crossings, roundabouts, some investments related to bus or train stations. This can be even signposting. And to install a bike sharing system is also an eligible cost. So in this chapter, we had to present investment by investment in real engineering details the sites. As you see it here, where is it? What kind of cycling infrastructure is introduced? What are the distances? So these sheets we already received from the civil engineers working on this parts. These come from their design systems. That these were based on the plans that they submitted for permits. And here it is listed how the traffic goes here, what happens at the roundabout, how it is crossed, what are the main lines of traffic. And there had to be photos about the current situation for each site. And then there was a crosscut of each investment. As you see, direction of the cycling, what are the side distances to the minimal. So this is the minimal side distance along the section where the passenger and car traffic goes, where the main public utilities like telephone pillar is planted, and where are the nearest plants to the bicycle lane. So this is actually quite a detailed document, and we had in Szombathely there were, as far as I remember, 12 elements in the plan. So we have gone through all of them. And here alternative solutions had to be presented, and justification at the engineering level of the chosen solution had to be presented. Of course, as I said, the local consultation and also this central planning committee has reviewed these solutions. So this was the main bulk of the consultation, whether these solutions are right or not, in terms of engineering, in terms of usability, in terms of safety, and there were also changes. When we prepared this network plan, we have to list all the existing capacities for bike parking. We have to document them, and we had to prepare suggestions how to improve them. All cities had to do that. For example, in most cities, these are old school bicycle storage facilities that are not really cycling friendly, and this U-shaped new type of bicycle storage places are more efficient because you can plant 4 bicycles next to them, and these don't harm your bicycle so much. So here in the network plan, we have listed all the locations, we have listed some missing locations, and we have on the short run and on the long run, we have listed what kind of changes are needed to make this area a real cycling friendly area in terms of bicycle storage. Then the bike sharing system. There was a difference in the planning if a city choose to introduce a bike sharing system or not. Most cities above 70,000 choose to have one, like Szombathely also choose to have one. And it's really a question whether it's viable in such size. And if the managing authority could participate now, they could tell you that in a lot of cities they planned to have it and then they skipped it. Because this size of the city between 50,000 and 80,000, it's really questionable how sustainable in terms of financial terms, as a bike sharing system can be. We had to do here in Szombathely a complete feasibility study. The outline structure and the main contents were stipulated in a guidance note annexed to the calls for proposals, and we had to do an alternative analysis of different technologies to use, like the one presented for Bialystok was one of the options, but we have considered the other newer technologies, including mobile technology with a pillar type of station. And we also made a public poll survey online. You see the numbers. We had a poll for the locations of the stations, and out of the long list, 10 stations were selected that have to be installed from the project on the network area. And as I was here is the long list. Yes, we had to present accompanying measures in details. So we didn't just list all the infrastructure elements and infrastructure solutions, but this network plan had to come back on these compulsory elements that I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, on awareness raising, on improving road safety through behavioral change of the population, and making efforts about the publicity of the cycling network, improved cycling network and bike sharing system. And actually, yeah, here. We detailed these measures in the network plan. There had to be a chapter about the compulsory project publicity tools, of course. And what is important, I think, that all these network plans are introduced by the Central Line Ministry into a national database. So here you see for our city what is in this national level central database, and all these network plans are prepared, and the Line Ministry is providing this database which includes all the bicycle lanes of the country. And the cities who get the financing have to provide the data about the status and the itinerary, so the exact locations, physical factors of the investment, and then they are introduced into the central system. So this gives a quite good overview of what is happening in terms of improving the cycling network in the country. And the last part of the cycling network plan was an implementation plan, which was not over complicated. This was just a sequencing of how these different stages will be implemented. It is very important to keep a city functional during all these investments. So this was a logistic and engineering plan on what to invest, what to improve first and what second. And in the last minutes of my presentation, I want to talk about the results of this course and probably what could be learned from this process. So here you can see that it's altogether more than 1,000 billion forints in this OP. Out of that, 125 billion has been invested into sustainable transport measures. There were two kinds of projects. This first column shows it's around 257 million euros. The funds allocated for counties. So these projects have financed a bicycle investment in smaller cities and between smaller cities and villages. The 35 billion forint, which is around 100 million euros, has financed infrastructure in bigger cities. And altogether, these are more than 400 projects in more than 400 settlements. These were 4 calls. So each of the 2 types were launched 2 times. Altogether 4 calls, and that's how these projects were selected, and most of them are under implementation still. But it is already possible to aggregate the indicators, and I think it's important always, if we are speaking about a policy instrument, an OP, or a call for proposals, or any other tool, even an integrated territorial investment strategy, you have to enumerate indicators, and these indicators were quite simple, and there are even like this problems with aggregation. So lengths of established cycling facilities of any kind, number of cycling friendly settlements, these are those who have a cycling friendly network plan, number of newly established traffic calm zones, a number of settlements carrying out road safety development are the indicators. In terms of traffic calmed zones, it was quite interesting that the methodology used was ambitious. So all the cities in these big housing zones had to evaluate the traffic situation within the housing zones, and in our city there were some housing areas that were not traffic calmed at all, and with a very high population density. And in these areas, the city had to take the responsibility to turn them into traffic calmed housing zones with very low car traffic speeds. This is just in brackets, but this is behind this indicator. Altogether, what we can say that as a lesson that we can consider, I think, this policy tool, which is the call for proposals for sustainable transport, as a very centralized one, but prepared in a way that at the level of the projects there is quite a substantial bottom-up approach required, which you have to document, and there is a very extensive list of methodological help and guidance and provided by the central managing authority, who is providing the resources. The level of territorial integration is, on the other hand, very low. So the main shortcoming of this system is that if you have a big city in the middle of a county, then the agglomeration of this city cannot be part of the city network. So all the villages in the agglomeration of the cities can be connected to the city network. The rural-urban connections can be prepared only in two separate projects. And there is really no guarantee that both projects will win in the competition. Especially the villages are sometimes in very high numbers, and they all submit competing applications. And maybe the most important in terms of traffic is not very well written as an application, and this is not really effective. So this is something that the integrated territorial investment strategy does very well in a good case, but this was really hard to coordinate in this setup that is used in Hungary. Then about the clear and simple presentation or guidance on technical solutions was not really a strength of this package. So there were really long documents and with references to other stipulations. And if you are if you are professional in cycling planning, it was clear for you. But if you are a decision maker working in or an administrator preparing a call, sitting in a city department of transport, you might not be this person. And actually a lot of misunderstandings and also at the level of decision makers, this in the city assembly, these were not suitable to present them what is the requirement, the central requirement in terms of quality, for example, of the infrastructure. So in the next period, the managing authority wants to prepare a planning guide that is like a bit like a cartoon, you know, how to design proper bicycle infrastructure. Also, the list of recommended plans is, I think, an extremely innovative tool. On the other hand, it's a list of Latin abbreviations and plant names. So it's very hard to work with it, actually, just out of, if you pick it from the shelf. This network methodology had some not very elaborated parts, like the organizational part, how you can improve with organizational measures, cycling in your city, linking together NGOs, schools, tour operators, tourism. This is nothing on that in this. And also not much about the links to urban planning, like how you can link public spaces, or how it is recommended to link up public spaces, green spaces, not green spaces, with cycling infrastructure, how you should plan to cross a park or the main square. There is not much on this. If you plan a bicycle lane through your main square, what are the good solutions, what are not good solutions, or your main park. So these are the things that we look for, actually, for lessons from other regions and good practices from other regions. And in the next period, most probably there will be similar calls, and we want to improve. Managing authority wants to improve the system in that way. Thank you.